Now it's time for Perspective on the programme, and my guest today is one of the world's most famous authors, but as an English speaker you may well not know of him. Jens Christian Grøndahl was born in Copenhagen in 1959. He's one of Denmark's most famous authors. His books have been translated all over the world. He has huge success, notably here in France, and tonight he's on stage here, in fact, at Paris Théâtre de la Ville, where he'll discuss his work and also his native Denmark, and that means, of course, in the current context as well, Greenland, that piece of ice, as someone recently called it. He says certainly shouldn't end up in a glass of an American cocktail. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But Jens Christian Grøndahl, good to have you with us on the programme today. Let's talk about your books first. I mean, love is very much at the centre of them, isn't it? Desire, heartbreak, and the passage of time as well.
True, yes. I mean, these are existential emotions, and I'm always going for, in a way, what are eternal situations in a life story, falling in love, falling out of love, but also how personal identity has become something personal in our modern world. Earlier, identity was something you were born with, but in our time, identity has become something highly personal, something which is attached to the history of your personal life and the choices you make, the options you had, what happened to your relationships with others, and all of that interests me immensely. So
I'm sure. I assume you like that idea.
I can return to the same topics with every book. In fact, people often claim that I write the same book every time, but I'd say that I try to write the same book, but every time it's different because I'm different, because I've aged a bit. I'm in a new situation, so I can return to the same issues and see them from a slightly different angle.
That's a good way of looking at it. Well, the latest book is called Au fond des années passées in French. Your native Denmark is very much the backdrop of it as well.
Yes, and very much my native Copenhagen, because I was born and raised in Copenhagen, and this is a book which is both about my youth back in the 80s in Copenhagen and about a present day story. It's the same person you meet at two ages. So it was an occasion also to reminisce about the city I knew as a young person and about what happens to your perspective going from being in your 20s to your 60s as I am myself today. So it's very much about memory, it's very much about the changes of life, but it's also about the changes that happened in my country, in my city. In the beginning of the book, when I describe these years in the 80s, it's also a description of a certain political atmosphere which has completely vanished. The left wing was very strong, and there was this attraction to the extreme left, which also marked my upbringing and my youth, but which you may today wonder about because it was so strange, it was so different, and yet even today you find extremism in our political world, and if you're old enough, you recognize certain things. At that time, it was the extreme left, which was attractive to many. These days, it's the extreme right. But I think that some of the patterns psychologically are very much the same.
We'll talk about a little bit of that shortly. I mean, it sounds like you're a very proud Danishman. What is it about Denmark that you love? I mean, I've been to Copenhagen myself, but knowing that the country is,
I'd rather say I'm a proud European. But what I'm proud of is really our diversity and the fact that you can be Danish and yet feel European at the same time. This is something peculiar to our part of the world, because in other parts of the world, you have the same culture all over the place, like in America, for instance. It's very much the same culture. In Europe, you can travel for a few hours and you'll be in a completely different cultural setting. Yet, at the same time, we share the same roots in antiquity, in the Greek and Roman culture, in Christianity, importantly, I think, ideas of democracy which are shared by all, but which are interpreted in so many different ways. So I think that what I'm really proud of is every time we can turn our diversity into a strength and not a weakness, which is, I think, what is happening these days.
You talk about travelling. What about your books travelling? We mentioned the fact that they're really well known here in France, known across a lot of other countries as well, a bit less so in the Anglo world.
No, less so in the Anglo world. I think it has to do with the fact that I was always very influenced by French literature as a young person before I even began to write. I was so influenced by Marguerite Duras, Claude Simon, Flaubert even, and I think that perhaps readers here recognize how I was marked by the French literature and how I'm trying to give something back, even if one may also find some characteristics of my books quite peculiarly Danish. But I think what I'm so happy about is that I think that this translation history testifies to the idea that, yes, literature can be universal, that this is really a universal language for what it means to be a human being, which can be shared across borders, even if you retain your personal and national identity. Literature travels well in translation. People can actually recognize emotions, feelings, thoughts that are shared by all.
Very nice way of putting it. I'm sure a lot of these themes will come up tonight when you're on stage at the Théâtre de la Ville. But I know also you're going to talk about Greenland and the latest controversy. It seems to have calmed down a little bit at the moment. But how did you feel when all that came up? I mean, did it anger you? What was your emotion?
Like all Danes, I was angered and I was bewildered also, because after the Second World War, we have been used to seeing the United States as our friend, our ally, and compared to the rest of Europe, actually, we were far more focused on the Anglo-Saxon world, and especially the States. This has changed within a few months. Now Danes have become Europeans like never before. And in that connection, as a Dane, I really must express my deep gratitude to President Macron and to the French for having opened this consulate in Greenland. This is not just a gesture. It's an extremely important step in building up solidarity around Greenland, around the kingdom, but also reassessing what it means to be European on a political level, how this is perhaps a moment where we can come together as Europeans and stand on our own legs for once.
There's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, in recent years about that tipping point, a lot of countries turning further to the left, further to the right. Here in France, we just had elections overnight that actually rechanneled, if you like, the vote towards more mainstream parties. I mean, does that give you hope that actually perhaps the sort of channeling off to the left, far right and far left is not going to be?
So certainly, because I think that we've seen a number of years with an increasing strength of the extreme right, and this is not where anything good is going to come from. I mean, what we really need is to come together as right-wing parties, as left-wing parties, and work together to defend the welfare model, which is European, something special to our part of the world. The fact that freedom and community are not oppositions. This is what we've proven here, and we should defend it. I think it gives me hope to see this the outcome of this election.
Well, good to have you on the programme today. Théâtre de la Ville tonight. If you happen to be in Paris, you can go along and join in the discussion there as well. But thanks very much for coming.
Thank you for
inviting us here on France 24. Jens Christian Grøndahl joining us here on France 24.